Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jai Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Praja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Praja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jai Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Jai Radha Shyamasundar Radha Shyamasundar Radhe Prabhupada 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 Jai Srila Prabhupada Nitai Go Hari Bo Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Gaur Premanande. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So today is a very special day, the incorporation of ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada Ki. And Srimad Bhagavatam is glorification of Krishna and the devotees. So we're glorifying the empowerment of Srila Prabhupada, bringing Krishna consciousness to the Western world and spreading it all over the world. So there's many ways of approaching, trying to glorify such an incredible achievement. Srila Prabhupada, we've heard all the struggle and austerities that Srila Prabhupada underwent, and somehow or other, Krishna arranged the timing just right. He sometimes lamented that I met my Guru Maharaj in 1922 and I was instructed to take the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spread it all over the world in the Western countries. He said, but I didn't really start the mission. He did. He's been League of Nations and Back to Godhead magazine and so many attempts. It appeared like climbing one hurdle after another hurdle, so many challenges, and you would think, why didn't Krishna make it a little bit easier if you're a devotee? But these challenges are there to show how much determination and how much faith Prabhupada had in his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and Krishna. So if you haven't read Lilamrta or heard the pastimes of how Srila Prabhupada Herculean task of starting to, ultimately ending up in Radha Damodar, praying to Rupa Goswami, the six Goswamis, and preparing the Srimad Bhagavatam as his only weapon to fight Kali Yuga's ignorance, and miraculously how he came to the USA, New York City, at the right time, exactly. Because even just 5-10 years before that, the atmosphere was different. We've heard from Mother Daivi Shakti, Brahmananda, and many others, how the Polish and the Ukrainians and also the Puerto Ricans, America is a land where people from all over the world come for freedom of religion and expression and opportunities for economic development. Everyone's thinking that that I'll become happy in this way. And those who actually come from middle-class families and upper class who had a college education and opportunity, they became hippies because they were not satisfied with the lifestyle, just work, work, work for money, for sense gratification. They were not satisfied. So then they started experimenting with, different drugs, LSD, marijuana, and whatnot. As we heard prior to that time, they were drunkards, people are basically suffering and they're miserable in the material world. So Srila Prabhupada came and started with Pennsylvania, Butler. He would speak at different churches and different clubs. Sometimes devotees ask, what kind of churches were there? He goes, I don't know. Basically, he would speak about Krishna, and he never changed his lifestyle or adopted the ways of the Western. Many yogis would come and to uptown Manhattan, where all the wealthier people were, and they would teach some kind of yoga exercises, and basically to get lucrative donations. And Prabhupada, we heard that he was with Mr. Mishra's yoga studio. He was an impersonalist, but they liked Prabhupada's Kirtan, but Prabhupada couldn't really speak freely about Krishna Bhakti. Then he had other opportunities in some very degraded places, ended up on the Bowery, which was the lowest of the low. People were very, very degraded in that area. And the person he was staying with became crazy from taking too much drugs and practically attacked Prabhupada. So some time went by, a week or so, when he was just practically no place to go. The Mukunda Maharaj and other people, they were searching the Village Voice, which is a popular magazine, for places, and somehow they got 2nd Avenue with a little apartment in the back. So I thought we would read just a little bit on chapter 18, Lilamrta, because Prabhupada finally had his own place and just started to give Gita classes and bring people who were curious to know about Indian philosophy. Even Keith and Howard Kirtananda and also Hayagriva went to India just a year prior to that and brought back, looking for spirituality, looking for a guru. And they found Prabhupada in the Lower East Side. Hayagriva was just walking and he goes, "Are you from India?" He says, "Yes." "And you?" And somehow Hayagriva, he told his other friends, Wali and Kirtananda and they weren't initiated yet, and just started coming to 2nd Avenue. A few sincere people, but hundreds of people who would speak, impersonalist philosophy and challenging, the mood of challenging. I thought we would read this. This is very, this is from the Lilamrta. "We shall call our society ISKCON." Prabhupada had laughed playfully when he first coined the acronym. Prabhupada, he named it International Society for Krishna, we'll call it ISKCON. He had initiated the legal work of incorporation that spring while still living on the Bowery. But even before its legal beginning, he had been talking about his International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And so it had appeared in letters to India and the Village Voice. That was a popular, like a hippie magazine. A friend had suggested a title that would sound more familiar to Westerners, International Society for God Consciousness. But Prabhupada had insisted, Krishna Consciousness. God was a vague term, whereas Krishna was exact and scientific. God consciousness was spiritually weaker, less personal. And if Westerners didn't know that Krishna was God, then the International Society for Krishna Consciousness would tell them by spreading his glories in every town and village. Krishna Consciousness was Prabhupada's own rendering of a phrase from Srila Rupa Goswami's Padyavali, written in the 16th century, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita, to be absorbed in the mellow taste of executing devotional service to Krishna. But to register ISKCON legally as a non-profit, tax-exempt religion required money and a lawyer. Carl Jurgens had already gained some experience in forming religious, political, and social welfare groups And when he had met Prabhupada in the Bowery, he had agreed to help. He had contacted his lawyer, Stephen Goldsmith. Stephen Goldsmith, a young Jewish lawyer with a wife and 2 children in an office on Park Avenue, was interested in spiritual movements. When Carl told him about Prabhupada's plans, he was immediately fascinated by the idea of setting up a religious corporation for an Indian Swami. He visited Prabhupada at 26 2nd Avenue, and they discussed incorporation, tax exemption, Prabhupada's immigration status, and Krishna consciousness. Mr. Goldsmith visited Prabhupada several times. Once he brought his children, who liked the soup that Swami cooked. He began attending the evening lectures, where he was often the only non-hippie member of the congregation. One evening, having completed all the legal groundwork and being ready to complete the procedures for incorporation, Mr. Goldsmith came to Prabhupada's lecture in Kirtan to get signatures from the trustees for the new society. July 11th, Prabhupada is lecturing. Mr. Goldsmith, wearing slacks and a shirt and tie, sits on the floor near the door, listening earnestly to the lecture. Despite distracting noises from the neighborhood, Prabhupada has been explaining how scholars mislead innocent people with non-devotional interpretations of the Bhagavad Gita. And now, in recognition of the attorney's respectable presence, and as if to catch Mr. Goldsmith's attention better, he introduces him into the subject of the talk. I'll give you a practical example of how things are misinterpreted. Just like our president, Mr. Goldsmith, he knows that expert lawyers, by interpretation, can do so many things. When I was in Calcutta, there was a rent tax passed by the government, and some expert lawyer changed the whole thing by his interpretation. The government had to reenact a whole law because their purpose was foiled by the interpretation of this lawyer. So we are not out for foiling the purpose of Krishna, for which the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, but unauthorized persons are trying to foil the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, that is unauthorized. All right, Mr. Goldsmith, you can ask anything. Mr. Goldsmith stands, and to the surprise of the people gathered, he makes a short announcement asking for signers on an incorporation document for the Swami's new religious movement, Prabhupada. They are present here. You can take the addresses now, Mr. Goldsmith. I can take them now? Yes. Prabhupada, yes, you can. Bill, you give your address, and Ralph or Raphael, you can give yours. And Don, Roy, Mr. Green, as the meeting breaks up, those called on to sign as trustees came forward, standing around in a little storefront, waiting to leaf cursorlessly through the pages the lawyer has produced from his thin achate, and to sign as he directs. Yet not a soul among them is committed to Krishna consciousness. Mr. Goldsmith meets his quota of signers, a handful of sympathizers, with enough reverence toward the Swami to want to help him. The first trustees, who will hold office for a year until the first annual meeting of the corporation, are Michael Grant, who puts down his name and address without ever reading the document. That's Mukunda Goswami. Mike's girlfriend, Jan, and James Green. No one seriously intends to undertake any formal duties as trustee of the religious society, but they're happy to help the Swami by signing his fledgling society into legal existence. According to law, a second group of trustees will assume office for the second year, They are Paul Gardner, Roy, and Don. The trustees for the third year are Carl Jurgens, Bill Epstein, and Raphael. None of them know exactly what the half a dozen legal-sized type pages mean, except that Swamiji is forming a society. Why? For tax exemption, in case someone gives a big donation, and for other benefits an official religious society might receive. But these purposes hardly seem urgent or even relevant to the present situation. Who is going to make donations? Except maybe for Mr. Goldsmith. Who else has any money? They're all hippies, no money. But Prabhupada is planning for the future, and he's planning for much more than just tax exemptions. He is trying to serve his spiritual predecessors and fulfill the spiritual prediction of a spiritual movement that is to flourish for 10,000 years in the midst of the age of Kali. Within the vast Kali Yuga, a period which is to last 432,000 years, the 1960s are but an insignificant moment. The Vedas describe that the time of the universe revolves through a cycle of 4 seasons or yugas, and Kali Yuga is the worst of times in which all spiritual qualities of men diminish until humanity is fully reduced to a bestial civilization devoid of human decency. However, the Vedic literature foretells a golden age of spiritual life, beginning after the advent of Lord Chaitanya and lasting for 10,000 years, an eddy that runs against the current of Kali Yuga, with a vision that soars off to the end of the millennium and beyond, yet with his 2 feet solidly on the ground of 2nd Avenue, Prabhupada has begun an international society for Krishna consciousness. He has many practical responsibilities, paying the rent, incorporating his society, and paving the way for a thriving worldwide congregation of devotees. Yet he doesn't see his humble beginning as limiting the greater scope of his divine mission. He knows that everything depends on Krishna, so whether he succeeds or fails is up to the Supreme. He has only to try. The purposes stated within ISKCON's Articles of Incorporation reveal Prabhupada's thinking. There were 7 points, similar to those given in the prospectus for the League of Devotees he formed in Jhansi, India in 1953. That attempt had been unsuccessful, yet his purposes remained unchanged. 7 purposes of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. A, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. B, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. C, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna. D, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy name of God, as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. E, to erect for the members and for society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna. F, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life. G, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. Regardless of what ISKCON's charter members thought of the society's purposes, Prabhupada saw them as imminent realities. As Mr. Rubin, the subway conductor who had met Prabhupada on Manhattan Park bench in 1965 had noted, he seemed to know that he would have temples filled with devotees. There are temples and books, he said. They are existing, they are there, but the time is separating us from them. The first purpose mentioned in the charter was propagation. Preaching was the word Prabhupada most often used. For him, preaching had a much broader significance than mere sermonizing. Preaching meant glorious, selfless adventures on behalf of the Supreme Lord. Lord Chaitanya had preached by walking all over southern India and causing thousands of people to chant and dance with him in ecstasy. See, the chanting and dancing people, we've got to participate in chanting and dancing. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan mission. Lord Krishna had preached the Bhagavad Gita while standing with Arjuna in his chariot on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Lord Buddha had preached, Lord Jesus had preached, and all pure devotees preach. ISKCON's preaching would achieve what the League of Nations and the United Nations had failed to achieve: real unity and peace in the world. ISKCON workers would bring peace to a world deeply afflicted by materialism and strife. They would systematically propagate spiritual knowledge, knowledge of the non-sectarian science of God. It was not that a new religion was being born in July of 1966. Rather, the eternal preaching of Godhead, known as Sankirtan, was being transplanted from east to west. The society's members would join together, and by hearing the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, they would come to realize that each was a spirit soul, eternally related to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They would then preach this to humanity at large, especially through Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy name of God. ISKCON would also erect a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna. Was this something beyond the storefront? Yes, certainly. He never thought small. He seemed to know that he would have temples filled up with devotees. He wanted ISKCON to demonstrate a simple, more natural way of life. Such a life, Prabhupada thought of the villages of India, where people lived just as Krishna had lived, was most conducive to developing Krishna consciousness. And all 6 of these purposes would be achieved by the 7th. ISKCON would publish and distribute literature. This was a special introduction Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had given to Srila Prabhupada. He had specifically told him one day in 1932 at Radhakund in Vrindavan, if you ever get any money, publish books. Certainly, none of the signers saw any immediate shape to the Swami's dream, yet these 7 purposes were not simply theistic, rhetoric, invented to convince a few New York state government officials. Prabhupada meant to enact every item in the charter. Of course, he was now working in extremely limited circumstances. The principal place of worship, located 26 2nd Avenue in the city, county, and state of New York, was the sole headquarters for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Yet Prabhupada insisted that he was not living at 26 2nd Avenue, New York City. His vision was transcendental. His Guru Maharaj had gone out from the traditional holy places of spiritual meditation to preach in cities like Calcutta, Bombay, and Delhi. And yet Prabhupada would say that his spiritual master had not really been living in any of those cities, but was always in Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, because of his absorption in devotional service. Similarly, the place of worship, 26 2nd Avenue, was now a New York storefront, a former curiosity shop. The storefront and the apartment had been spiritualized and were now a transcendental haven. Society at large could come here. The whole world could take shelter here, regardless of race or religion. Plain, small, and impoverished as it was, Prabhupada regarded the storefront as a holy place of transcendental pastimes, dedicated to the personality of Krishna. It was a world headquarters, a publishing house, a sacred place of pilgrimage, and a center for which an army of devotees could issue forth and chant the holy names of God in all the streets in the world. The entire universe could receive Krishna consciousness from the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which was beginning here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnanatamrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swapadantikam. So this is a very momentous or monumental achievement. It's almost unimaginable how Prabhupada abide Charanaravinda, fearless, that to have that kind of courage to come to the Western world at such an advanced age. Scindia Steam Company, Sumati Murarji's, some of the people were saying, oh, the old man's just going to go die. What's he going to do in New York City? We can just imagine how Srila Prabhupada, taking the inspiration of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati on his first meeting, also in Radhakund, his Guru Maharaj is encouraging you print books, because this is the time. The sages in Naimisharanya were very concerned that Krishna's leaving. Now who's going to uphold the religious principles? What's going to happen? Kali Yuga's coming in and Krishna's leaving. But Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the incarnation of Krishna. And so to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, this Bhagavat Purana, Amala Purana, to systematically hear Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by Krishna himself. Someone criticized, well, Krishna never wrote anything, but Sanjaya was there. And as Krishna was speaking to Arjuna, he gave it to Vyasadeva, who compiled this literature. Bhagavad Gita is not just simply ABCs, it's the essence of all the Vedic literatures. Because if you haven't read the Bhagavad Gita as it is, we may think that, oh, I've heard Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, it's a nice Bhagavad Gita. It's a very common thing. One lady approached Prabhupada, can you recommend one Bhagavad Gita for me to read? Prabhupada said there are many, many editions of Bhagavad Gita, but hardly one is really presenting the true essence or nature. He was giving the example of how a lawyer can manipulate the law in such a way as to change the purpose of the law. So people, philosophers, scientists, PhDs, very learned personalities, doctors, they would take the teaching of Bhagavad Gita and use it for their own purposes. So Srila Prabhupada has given us Bhagavad Gita as it is. Let Krishna speak. hear Krishna directly, not some interpretation. And even the importance of the Guru Parampara, Evang Parampara Praptang Imang Rajar Shayo Vidu, that how fortunate can we be that Krishna, out of great compassion, only in one day of Brahma, and one day of Brahma is a very, very long time. You can see the numbers. His lifetime is 311 trillion, so many billion years. So we can't even imagine. This is Kali Yuga, 1,000 Satya Yugas, like 1,800,000 years, Treta Yuga, 1,200,000 years, Dwapara Yuga, 800-something thousand years, Kali Yuga, 436,000 years. Only 5,000 years have passed. And Krishna mercifully appeared 5,000 years ago to reestablish Bhagavad Dharma. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, came again only 500 years ago. And Balaram, Lord Nityananda, Krishna and Balaram again appeared in Gauda Desh, and to present the essence of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Prite vite ache yata nagaradigram sarvatra prachara hoibe moranam. That he wanted his name and his teachings to be spread all over the world. Now how's that going to happen? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was throughout South India chanting and dancing, and everyone became fully ecstatic. He sent Haridas Thakur, Advaita Charya. These are all limbs of the Chaitanya tree, Lord Nityananda, and they go preaching, Sankirtan. Prabhupada says that ISKCON is part of the Chaitanya tree, because this knowledge of Krishna consciousness is being broadcast in a very systematic, scientific way. Prabhupada set up the society for that purpose. Although in Jhansi, he attempted to, start it and make it happen. But despite so many disappointments and difficulties, still, Prabhupada never lost faith. All day he would go out. When he was preparing to come to the States, he was staying in some apartments in the Scindia employees' place, and some of them would see Prabhupada coming back after a full day of being out distributing Back to Godhead magazine and trying to, give people understanding of Krishna consciousness, the importance of awakening our love for Krishna, not wasting our human form of life, which is very, very rare. When you hear the description of the 8,400,000 species of life and all the different planets, higher planetary system, middle planetary system, lower planetary system, human life is a very rare opportunity. So, Bharata Bhumi Te Hoila Manusha Janmajar, Janma Sarthaka Kori Kara Parupakar. Those who were born in Bharatvarsh, land of India, but Bharatvarsh was the whole planet. The whole planet was called Bharatvarsh. Now it's reduced to a geographical identification. This is India or Bharatvarsh. And it says those who take birth in the glorious, pious Bharatvarsh, he's ordering, it's your duty, it's your responsibility to take the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy name of Krishna and spread it all over the world. So it's a big responsibility, but people were not hearing. Prabhupada would come back after tirelessly working, serving his mission, serving his Guru Maharaj by distributing. And they would ask, how was your day today? Oh, tomorrow will be a better day. He'd wash up and then immediately start translating. And despite, when he came to America, not having any money, no place really to stay, and no platform to preach, how am I going to spread this mission? Krishna, only if I repeat your words will people take this message seriously, because everyone in this Kali Yuga is engrossed in ignorance and passion. People are simply driven by artha, dharma, kama, moksha. Superficially, they find some religious system that, oh yes, I'm Christian, I'm Jewish, or I'm Hindu, I'm Muslim, and I have my religion. I have my duty to pray to God. I can have good health and make lots of money so I can take care of my family. But basically people are using religions for economic development and economic development for sense gratification. What is the purpose of life? To get ghee, beg, borrow, or steal, eat nicely, sleep, have sense gratification, enjoy. Because when you die, it's all finished. You burn on the funeral pyre, it's all gone. Forget about good or bad and sinful activities. But that's not what Shastra is teaching. Yang bapi smaram bhavam tajatyante kalevaram. Whatever state of being we remember at the time of death, that's where we're going. But it all accumulates. Krishna's seeing, his eyes are the sun and the moon. The demigods are seeing, the day is seeing, the night. It's not like we can hide and think nobody saw me do this sinful activity. So, but Krishna is very kind. What's he say? Sarva dharmam parityajya mamekang sharanang vraja ahang tvang sarapapibhyo mokshayashyami masuchaha. Give up all your ideas of so-called religion or philosophy, impersonalism, voidism. There is a God, there is no God, atheism. And even in many religious systems, they don't give a clear understanding who is God, what is the relationship of the living entity with God, and how to achieve that goal of awakening our love for Krishna, which is lying dormant. So Srila Prabhupada felt like I have a huge task, but his determination was so resolute, his determination was so solid that despite so many disturbances and so many stumbling blocks, somehow by Krishna's mercy, at the right time, in 1965, Prabhupada came after 1 year of intense determination. Often he would go back to the steamship company. When's the next boat back to India? I have to get out of this place. This place is too much. And even his visa, he had visa problems. Ended up in Canada, Montreal. He said, never mind, I'll make my headquarters Montreal. But somehow they arranged for Prabhupada to get a visa. If you look at all the different difficulties and challenges, and still, despite that, he retained his enthusiasm and determination. But right from the very beginning, on 2nd Avenue, he would sit on a small mat on the floor, and everybody else would sit on mats on the floor, and all hippies. And one of them were experiencing LSD, marijuana, and other drugs, unlimited amount of, they were searching for higher consciousness. They were searching for guidance, spiritual guidance, but they had no idea where to receive that guidance. But when they saw Prabhupada, his effulgence and his mastery and his educated presentation, philosophical presentation of Bhagavad Gita with logic and reason, and sometimes people would interrupt, and Prabhupada said, no, not now. Let me finish, and then you can speak. And from the very beginning, he was controlling the crowd. And unfortunately, some were sincere, but many people would come for challenging purposes. Even so, Prabhupada would start the Kirtan. The neighbors would complain naturally because it became overly ecstatic, like our Kirtans are very ecstatic. But nobody complains in India. You can make as much noise as you like. But the Kirtan was very much satisfying, and people would play all kinds of instruments, and they felt, oh, this is a better high than drugs. And that picture of Srila Prabhupada with his hand on his head, when they would give out these flyers, and people would say, oh, look at him, he's so high, he has to hold himself down from going to the Vaikuntha, spiritual world. So Srila Prabhupada commanded respect from the beginning, not that he demanded, but everyone could appreciate that this is not an ordinary human being. And then after some time, Kirtananda was helping to cook for the devotees, and Prabhupada on Sundays, he'd make special sweets and kachoris, and he would personally go up and down the road feeding the devotees, and not only feeding them, insisting, eat more, eat more. What else do you want? Seconds, thirds. And if somebody is just picking at the food and not properly eating, you're not eating? Why you're not eating? Take prasadam. It's purifying. And Prabhupada thought, when I go to America, there'll be nothing to eat. But he was having rice, dal, chapatis. And people became, this is so much better than American food. And people were just coming sometimes just for the lunch prasadam. Anyway, it grew out of that little storefront. 26th Avenue is very small, very kind of thin. But then Prabhupada decided, let us go to Tompkins Square Park. And everybody thought, oh, we're going to be in public? We thought this is just our little group in the storefront. We have our little Swami, and this is it. And so they all went out to the Tompkins Square Park, which was basically where people would be out in the sunny day, Polish and Russians and Puerto Ricans and different mixed groups of people, because that's what New York was, a big conglomeration of different people from different heritage and cultures. And so Prabhupada would be playing his little bongo and chanting with such determination, and somehow his early followers, they would jump up and start dancing. They didn't know or understand the significance of the Mahā Mantra or Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Vedas or Puranas. What is mantra meditation? What is sannyas? When Prabhupada would speak. But somehow Prabhupada conveyed the message, and more and more people became attracted. And after Prabhupada inaugurated the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, even though everyone thought that, what is the purpose? I mean, we only have this little village and a few followers. Who's going to actually do anything with this society? But Srila Prabhupada had the vision, as that one conductor from the subway said, that Prabhupada would see so many temples around the world full of devotees chanting and dancing. So a pure devotee, he's Trikalagya. He knows past, present, and future. And he's Shakti Vaishavatar, he's empowered by Krishna. That Prabhupada's translating in the middle of the night these Vedic literatures, and he said that Krishna's dictating to him. And so it's not that, oh Swami, you've done so many wonderful things, you wrote so many books. Prabhupada, these are not my books, these are Krishna's books. So we should take reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, in the association of devotees, and following Srila Prabhupada's standards. Then other ceremonies were introduced, like after some time Guru Puja, and then the rules and regulations, because no one was following any rules and regulations. And if Prabhupada said, if I told you all the rules and regulations, you would all run away. So this is Kali Yuga. We're not very spiritually advanced. Our life is very short. It is full of bad qualities of lust, anger, greed, jealousy, envy. There's just a few of them. There's many more. And Prabhupada, he's creating a spiritual haven, a place which is actually pure. The temple becomes Vaikuntha. In our case, Goloka Vrindavan, because a replica of the spiritual world where Krishna has his eternal pastimes is manifest here in Bhumi Vrindavan. It's not like this is another kind, this is actually a spiritual kingdom, the spiritual world. But because we don't have the eyes, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, that by taking initiation from the spiritual master, by following the rules and regulations of the Vaishnava discipline, it's austerity. To rise early in the morning is austere. To attend the Mangal Āratī, the Guru Puja, to attend the class. Oh, who's giving class? Nah, what does he know? I'm not attending that class. Okay, if some Swami, Guru, or Yogi, okay, I'll come, I'll listen. He must have something important to say. But we're just trying to repeat Prabhupada's words and glorify Prabhupada glorified Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Krishna Balaram. Matter of fact, when Kirtananda and Hayagriva, they brought back a few posters. And one poster was a Sadbhuj. You see, we have a Sadbhuj deity in the museum, if you have not seen. And they were asking, who is that? It's Lord Chaitanya. But what are those green hands? Well, that's Lord Ramachandra. He has bow and arrow. The blue hands, he has a flute. That's Krishna. And the yellow hands, oh, that's Lord Chaitanya with a kamandalu and a staff. But they have no idea, what is all this? And Hanuman, they had a picture of Hanuman, Lord, the servant of Lord Ramachandra. He said, is that a cat? No, it's a monkey. But he's a very powerful servant of the Lord. So Prabhupada picked which pictures they can keep and the others they can get rid of, because sometimes people like to make various pictures of Krishna's rasa dance and rasa lila, but only in a mundane way. So Srila Prabhupada, he was giving us the essence of Krishna consciousness, the essence of Bhagavatam, the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And he created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness with temples all over the world, with a morning program, and with what is the duty. Devotees in the beginning would come to Prabhupada and ask, what is my duty? So, okay, you're going to go do life memberships. And in the beginning, they would do 4 hours of kirtan, take a little breakfast, another 4 hours of kirtan, 8-10 hours of kirtan every day on the streets, singing and chanting the glories of Krishna consciousness. Obviously, we're still doing kirtan. There's still sankirtan going out. But now a lot of emphasis is on book distribution, which is very, very dear to Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and this is Lord Chaitanya. So the Krishna Balaram Mandir is for that purpose, to actually perform some austerity. Not only to think that, oh, I'm a follower of Krishna, where's my room? Does it have AC? What time is prasad again? 3 times a day? Okay, you know. But no, we should ask, what can I do for Srila Prabhupada? What service can I do for this society to be actually a member? Because a member of the society is not some lazy armchair speculative philosophy. It's actually meant that you get up early, you chant, you dance, you hear the Bhagavatam, and all day long, you're out preaching, one way or the other, cooking for the devotees, cleaning, doing sankirtan, using your intelligence, using your body, using your mind, using your wealth. In any capacity, we should engage and participate in the sankirtan mission. Because when Prabhupada, or when the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Tadvidi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnanas Tattva Darshana. We want to know the truth, you want to understand? You have to approach the Guru, spiritual master. Inquire submissively, and then render service. Because service is integral part. We're hearing, we're chanting. What are we doing when we're chanting? Oh Krishna, I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please engage me in your service. We're begging Krishna, please give me something to do. And we can always, chanting is also service. Reading Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is also service. Coming to see the Darshan of the deity is this service. But the most important thing is have the proper attitude, the proper feeling. What is that ultimate verse for chanting perpetually? Trinadapi sunichena tarodapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. That we have to be humble, ready to offer all respects to others without expectation. Oh Prabhu, you're such a nice devotee. Oh, thank you. No, we're not expecting to be glorified. And by actually being humble, offering respect to others, and this way you can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Even though we may not have a taste for hearing and chanting, it develops. The more we clean the heart, the more the taste develops. Unfortunately, I ran out of time here. It's 9 o'clock. Anyway, this is a wonderful day. The Srila Prabhupada 60 years ago inaugurated the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He named it ISKCON himself. He had the vision and it manifested. Srila Prabhupada ki. So if we have maybe one question, two questions, we can do a few minutes. Yes, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your initial lecture. We are members of Srila Prabhupada Society. Srila Prabhupada visited Radha temple, but he did not think that he will develop Radha temple or he will preach in the Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada vision and mission towards his mission, he will spread this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. This is mission and vision is spread Chaitanya movement. So we are staying in Vrindavan. We came to Vrindavan for develop our qualities. So we should not sit in one place for develop our qualities. We should serve Prabhupada mission. We should spread this Krishna consciousness movement by reading Prabhupada book.
Good. Thank you. Our good fortune is that the whole world's coming to Vrindavan. So we're actually spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the whole world. This is beauty. And it's a good point, though, very good point. Bhaktisiddhanta didn't just sit and he went out preaching. Lord Chaitanya went out preaching, and Srila Prabhupada went out preaching as well. But right here, right from Vrindavan, by being busy and engaged, by serving Prabhupada and following his order, you're also preaching all over the world. I had a tour yesterday of our Krishna Balaram broadcasting facility. I don't know if any of you know, but the amount of work that's being done there for making all kinds of programs for educating children. We're becoming #1 in Instagram, Facebook, and all the other digital avenues. We have the highest definition, and we have so many short little videos going out. People all over the world are thrilled to be able to see the beauty of Krishna Balaram, to see all the different activities, the Guru Puja, the festivals. So this is service and broadcasting, and see the 24-hour Kirtan is being spread all over the world. So in many ways, we're fortunate to be in Sri Vrindavan Dham, but be busy and preach. Yes, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, thank you. I'm really thankful to you. And I want to say again, thank you, especially encouraging all of us, specific several purposes. It's something that really we need to thank you much on how you encourage us to work with several purposes. Thank you.
I have to encourage you, otherwise nothing gets done, right? I can chastise you too if you like. Come to my office. We reserve the chastisement for the office, okay? But we are very fortunate. We're very, very fortunate. Count our blessings. Use your energy, use your enthusiasm, your intelligence for becoming more and more Krishna conscious by following Srila Prabhupada. Okay? So thank you, everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare, Hare